Welcome to Cake on Tuesday, where we spotlight the rule breakers, the underdogs who refuse to listen when everyone said it won't work. I'm Elizabeth Bieniek, and for the next 20 minutes, we're diving into another disruptive innovation story that proves sometimes the craziest ideas change everything. Today's guest is Erika Benadom. After a successful career as the principal of a prestigious school in a wealthy town in Silicon Valley, she chose to disrupt not just her career, but herself, moving into edtech, venture capital, and high-growth startups. Going from an out-front leader to a behind-the-scenes magic maker supporting ambitious technology executives. Today, as the head of executive operations for Zensai, a fast-growing software company, Erika is getting back in the spotlight with her own innovative ways of making everything work. Erika, welcome to the show. We're thrilled to have you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Well, tonight, because you are joining us from the lovely Denmark. I am so thankful for this conversation, you making the time this evening. I would really love to get into your story on disruption, but before we get into there, can you tell our audience a little bit about what sets your soul on fire? What do you love about what you do?
Absolutely. I think people set my soul on fire, whether that's little people or big people. In the past, it was education and all of the amazing educators that supported, or I should say it was children and all the amazing educators that supported them. But now it really is people, because my belief system is that the technology is typically the simplest aspect of anything we do. And it's the people that are the most interesting, complex, and they add so much flavor to what we do. So I really enjoy meeting people. I enjoy supporting anyone on my team to thrive and succeed, and want to remove any obstacle that impedes that progress.
I love that. And I wish the technology was always the simplest, but we just had a little technology issues getting started on this podcast. So sometimes it gets more complex than we like. So can you talk to us a little bit about your very interesting career trajectory and what caused you to make a huge shift?
Yeah. So I grew up the first decade of my life abroad. I was born in Mexico, lived in Spain and Brazil, and grew up speaking fluent Spanish. So when I graduated from university, I wanted to apply that Spanish, and in Los Angeles became a teacher, because even though I went to school to get my business degree at Boston University, I wasn't finding purpose and passion in that at that time, because I didn't have a mentor to kind of share with me that you can be both successful in business and couple that with passion. So I then leaned towards the education aspect of a career and worked in inner city LA and was a teacher for 5 years. And then I trained teachers on how to use technology, because this was in the 90s, right when the internet was just hitting the scene and it was all so exciting. And in college, I had grown up with technology. And when I got to the classroom, I was like, where are all the computers? And they were all in a closet. And so I worked with the tech staff to get all the computers into my classroom and set up a little hub. And then I housed the first Eudora server for an internet server or email server. And then just really leaned into the technology and ended up becoming the tech director for the district for many years. And once I had a family, that led to many very long hours, and I wanted to be around for my kids. So we split the job in half, and one of my counterparts took the tech heavy side and I took the instructional side. And then that led into a role working for a software company called School City, where I was teaching teachers all across the United States how to use data to inform instruction, and also working with the product team to design the software itself. And after doing that for many years, my husband was gracious enough to be a stay-at-home dad for our 2 kids during that time. And then we decided that he was ready to go back to the workforce. So I came back to Northern California and became a school principal. And that's how I ended up in Los Altos. And it was one of the most incredible experiences I could have ever had, because the resources were almost endless when you're working in an environment like that. But I was at the one school that had a 10% Hispanic population. So you had a very huge gap between those who had and those who hadn't. And my disruption, Elizabeth, actually started then. Actually, it started when I was in technology because we were disrupting how learning looked like with technology. But then as a school principal, we were really trying to, the catchphrase was transform learning or revolutionize learning, because what we were working on was how do you create a system that serves all students and that doesn't just offer a one size fits all? And so we worked, my staff was an incredible team of very excellent teachers, and we put in different practices. We iterated on them. We did a lot of the design thinking that came out of Stanford and really applied those approaches. And then the environment shifted quite a bit. There was a political change in the US that happened. And I was really burnt out on education and I wanted to kind of get my feet wet in this world of Silicon Valley where the children of the adults that we served, they worked in these places where what's that one phrase that Facebook has, like break things and move fast and break things or something to that effect, right? Yes. So I wanted to kind of see what that was all about. And that's how I ended up in the tech sector.
Okay. And then in the tech sector, we spoke before and you mentioned that you were in some ways feeling like you're starting all over, but in other ways feeling like there were a lot of transferable skills. How did that transition go? Because that is very daunting to a lot of people, the idea of, oh, I don't want to start over. I'm in this path. I've become very senior in this path. I'm not going somewhere else and starting down a rung or two, if you will. So what was that transition like for you?
Yeah. So there was some naivete on my part in the sense that I thought it was going to be excuse the metaphor, but a piece of cake for Cake on Tuesday.
You can use all the cake metaphors
right?
you want on this show. That's excellent.
Fabulous. I thought it was going to be a piece of cake to transition. And lo and behold, what I didn't realize is I didn't have the depth of knowledge, the business acumen to be able to say, this is how my skills in this one environment transfer to this other environment. And I mean, like, I remember I went to this interview at LinkedIn. Thank goodness Robin Daniels has been an amazing advocate and champion in my life for many, many years and is a dear, dear friend. But he opened the door for me for an interview. And I look back now and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I put them through that. Right. Because it was a sales enablement interview. Right. And I mean, LinkedIn is a global organization, right? And it was, how are you going to prepare the sales force to do X, Y, and Z? And I had absolutely no context for that, right? And so anyway, but I wasn't afraid. I was going to do it. I was going to try it. I said yes to interviews. And at the end of the day, I just needed an in, and the in that I got was through another former parent, because that was 5 years working at this school. I built a lot of deep relationships with many families who were very wonderful. And so I got a marketing assistant type of a role and then got some exposure to that. And then I reconnected with Robin, and he said, the only thing I've got for you is an EA role, an executive assistant. And I was like, I'm good with that. I'll take it. I've never been one who thinks something is beneath me, right? So I believe you just have to lean in, and if something fills your soul or gives you purpose and you can be good at it, then give it a try. So I worked at WeWork. That was a wild ride. Yes, it was 6 months before the crash. So I got to see, I didn't get all the wild and crazy stories that were in all the movie making, but I got to actually watch the end. So I got to watch Newman walk in and give his final all hands, and got to be in some of the inner circles. And it was really eye-opening and formative. But I made a lot of connections in that role as well with other colleagues who were EAs, and then also got to really see what a global marketing organization looked like and how expansive it was. So after being at WeWork, and again, it's as much as sometimes being a principal is really hard, I am so grateful for it because it was the launching pad to where I am today, right? So I also worked for another wonderful family who created their own startup called Dwellsy, and it's a rental platform where they're trying to democratize renting experience rather than have it be paid listings. It's all listings are free. And so I got to be in a teeny tiny little startup with 5 people. And what I learned from that experience was that startups deserve employees or leaders or contributors who have a depth of knowledge in a particular area. And even though I was willing to drink from the fire hose as fast as I could, I just didn't have enough understanding of marketing needs to be able to make that work for them. And so that's when I went, you know what? I am a really great executive assistant. I know how to get lots done. I would use the S word, but I will keep it G-rated for right now. But I know how to get a lot done. I don't take no for an answer. I'm driven. I'm creative. I'm very independent. So I don't need to seek approval, very often for if you say this is what we need. I'm very confident to be able to say, great, you want a dinner that has this type of environment for 20 to 25 people. I know all the steps from A to Z to make that happen. And so I went and worked at a venture firm in San Francisco and did that for 3 years and really enjoyed my time there. And then our family had a bit of a upheaval and my husband got sick, but he's great now. So that's all that matters. But it kind of changed the way we looked at the world. And at the same time that was happening, Zensai was looking for someone to support their executive team. And I had always been keen to travel abroad and bring my family to a non-US kind of space just to show them the world beyond the 50 states. And here we are.
That's awesome. I want to dig into Zensai in a minute, but before we get there, you made a comment earlier about when you were first making the transition from the academic world into the corporate world that you weren't sure how to frame your skills in the right language to be received there. I want to pull on that thread a little bit because, you're bilingual, you speak a couple languages. So did you find once you were in that space, it's almost like picking up a vocabulary and then that allowed you later to push the gas pedal and go forward a little bit more quickly because you were able to find that right language to translate your previous skills? I feel like there's a lot of administrative overlap between administration world and being a principal of a school. You're kind of running your own organization and translating that into operations and the administrative world on the tech side. You are running with all the little things. So did you find there was a lot of carryover and once you were more fluent in that language, you were able to explain that better? Or once you get it in, it kind of took on a life of its own and you didn't need to play translator?
No, I definitely think that there was a need for translation. And I think you captured it well when you talk about that word operations, right? As a school principal, you're not in the classroom doing the work, right? You're making sure that everything is running. And so you're a kind of a logistics captain. But what I didn't have is the terminology like go to market or lead, right? Like now, especially having been at Zensai and even at Ridge Ventures, right? So the CRM is a student information system, right? But I didn't understand the correlate at that point, right? So, when I was director of technology, I was importing and exporting student data. I was sending it to the state. We had 10-digit every student in the state of California has a 10-digit student ID, and you had to extract this data and upload it. But I didn't have the terminology for what that correlate was in business, right? So now when leads are coming in, right? So for example, when our sales team is on the conference room floor and they're scanning people's badges and it goes into this spreadsheet, now I know that the spreadsheet needs to get cleaned up, and that spreadsheet and the data that gets cleaned up goes into SalesLoft or HubSpot or whatever it is, that goes into your CRM, which then provides all these analytics, right? And we had the same things in education. I just didn't know how to talk about them, right? And then I did sales pitches all the time. I just didn't realize I was
call
doing
them sales pitches.
Right. Because, I mean, especially at our school district in Los Altos, parents had private schools to choose from. We had a charter school to choose from, and we had the public school system to choose from, right? So I had at least 3 to 5 tours every week with families who would come in and say, tell us about your school. And I would walk them around and give them a tour. What I didn't realize is that, right, that I would be handling objections and battle cards. And I didn't have any of those words, right? So, and even our teaching staff, right? Now I work at Zensai, which is a human success platform, or the HR operating platform in the age of AI, right? And what does that mean? That means we have 3 products, right? It means we have a learning module or a learning product, Learn 365, which basically, it's the shell that holds the content of either required learning or learning to advance your skill set, right? And we had the same type of thing in education. I just didn't have the terminology for how to communicate that. We also now have a product called Engage, which does weekly check-ins. Weekly check-ins weren't really a concept in education because you basically see your teachers almost every day, right? And you have a staff meeting every week, right? But, and then all hands, an all hands is a staff meeting, right? But I just couldn't transfer that understanding. And then lastly, right now we have a performance tool, right? A performance management tool where every 6 months or so you have your performance evaluation. And in education, we had a very rigorous evaluation system because the concept of being tenured in education does not necessarily exist in business. However, in what I'm learning is in countries like Denmark, there are a lot of work protections for employees. So you do actually have to demonstrate if there is an employee that's underperforming, you do have to be able to show how you are helping them grow or address their underperformance. And technology plays a part in that. That's the same thing in education, right? And so I I think it's, 7 years later? I think it's the same time you moved to Texas. Right? So 7, 8 years later, now I can finally build that transference of terminology or concepts, but I just wasn't able to do that when I got started. And so really, I have no regrets. I am so proud of the amount of time that I spent in education. I'm proud of what I accomplished. I am so grateful to the lifelong connections that I built with so many amazing humans over the years. And, starting over, yes, it did require a shift in my way of thinking. And I would say, I've been thinking a lot about this. I think I do not currently lead anyone officially, right? I don't have any direct reports. Should that ever be in my future again, I will be such a better leader because I've led and I have now followed. And so when you follow again, you go, oh, wow, did I do that?
It's a different perspective, right?
Yeah. And you also, I try to have empathy for the leaders that I'm supporting, knowing the weight of responsibility that's on their shoulders. And I think that's why I can be a really trusted partner to someone because I genuinely want that person to succeed. And I will be able to look kind of what I've learned in business is it's fast in a different way. And the leaders are looking constantly at the horizon, not down at the ground, right? And if they're not looking down at the ground, then there might be a divot or a pothole that will cause them to stumble. And so the way I look at it is that's my responsibility is to make sure they don't stumble and to support them in every way possible.
Hmm. All right, before we wrap up, I need to ask you a question about celebration because I do follow you and Robin both on LinkedIn, and you look like you're having way too much fun most of the time. What is your take and approach on incorporating celebration in day-to-day work? And you can talk about this from an Erika perspective, from a Zensai perspective, or whichever you prefer.
I'll talk about it from an Erika perspective. Celebration, in my opinion, it's huge because its impact it's a multiplier, right? It's exponential. When you uplift others, you create this sense of capability, right? And accomplishment and pride. And so throughout my career, it's been very important for me to celebrate other people. I remember, and this is going to sound kind of hokey, but it meant a lot to people in education. We did a lot around holidays, right? So on Valentine's Day, I sent out a Google form to everyone in the community, right? So we had 800 students. So I sent it out to 800 sets of parents, right? And I asked them, the parents, to work with their children or themselves to say what they were grateful about for their teachers. And we created these heart-shaped word bubbles, right? Word clouds. And every single teacher got a customized word cloud in the shape of a heart with words that either their students or the parents or what have you. And imagine that you may have had a teacher in first grade, right? But a fifth grade parent is writing something about that first grade teacher because they still remember the impact that teacher had. So it was really powerful. And teachers, I'm sure it's probably still accessible on Twitter, but teachers like posted pictures of, because what I would do is I'd go around in the morning before they got to school and I'd put them on their doors so that when they walked into the door, they would be like, oh, right. So now it's the same kind of what I do it through either Teams messages or LinkedIn. Like if you look at my LinkedIn feed, I celebrate people because I think, like, as I started out on our call, I think people are absolutely so beautiful and have so much to offer, and everyone is unique and has some sort of treasure locked within them that the world needs to know about. And so whether it's celebrating a sale, right? Or like, for example, we are working on renewals right now, right? So we have this gong. And so on Fridays, my job is to see who's moved from this phase to this phase. And then I rope someone in from the team to record me banging the gong. And it's like, woohoo, go sales team, right? So we can't do it alone. None of us can do it alone. We all need each other. And when we show that gratitude and we express it, it makes someone sit up taller, right? And it fills us all with optimism and possibility. And that's the world that I want to live in.
That's fantastic. All right. As we close up here, a two-part final question. One being, what piece of advice would you give someone who is pondering a major life or career change? And then two, where can people find you, follow you, and learn more?
Yes. All right. Big life career change. Be brave. It might be difficult, but if you want it, go for it, because the worst thing that can happen is that you look back and you didn't take that chance, right? So yes, it's kind of like this. I heard people say, for those people who want to have children, those of you who don't, that's totally okay. But for those of you who do, right? People are like, oh, I'm not ready yet. I need to have this or that. You're never going to be ready. You will never be ready to have children. Like there's never a right time. I think it's the same. Like if you want to make a change, why continue doing something that's not bringing you joy? Like figure out, put together a plan, follow the plan, and then go for it. So that's my advice there. If you want to find me, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm sorry to say I have gotten rid of all of my other socials at this point in time. But LinkedIn is the place to find me. And I look forward to connecting with everyone.
Awesome. Erika Benadom, thank you so much for joining us on Cake on Tuesday.
Oh, Elizabeth, thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Thanks for joining another Cake on Tuesday celebration of beautiful disruption. Please share it, review it, and find more innovative stories at podcast.cakeontuesday.com. I'm Elizabeth Bieniek. Be bold, stay curious. Now go have some cake.